Welcome to another episode of Rednek Reviews. Today we've got another heavy hitter in the budget-friendly category. This is the Phanteks XT View. And at just $90, this is an incredible value from a trusted brand. First, let's talk about some of the specs. This is a mid-tower case and it supports ATX, micro ATX, ITX, and even eATX up to 280 millimeters wide. Also, it was designed to work with MSI's Project Zero and Asus BTF motherboards, which means you could design a PC with zero visible cables. Included in the case are three 120mm DRGB fans, and the case supports up to a total of 9 120mm fans. You can fit three 120mm fans directly under your GPU, and another 3 fans on top, or up to a 360mm radiator on top of the case. You can also swap the rear fan for a 140mm fan, or there's support for two 140mm fans on the top. However, the website is very clear. As you can see from this screenshot, there is zero support for 140mm wide radiators. So keep that in mind when you're designing your PC. For front I/O, you have a USB-A 3.0, a USB-C 3.2, a combo headphone microphone jack, and then the usual power button, reset button, DRGB color button, and a DRGB color mode button that you'll find on a lot of Phanteks cases today. And in addition to the M.2 storage available on your motherboard, there's also support for two 2.5-inch SATA SSDs and one 3.5-inch hard drive, or you can have two 3.5-inch hard drives. Lastly, this case can support up to 415mm long graphics cards and up to 184mm wide. That's the distance from the motherboard to this glass side panel, which means technically you could fit an Asus TUF RTX 4080 Super in this case. Now keep in mind that doesn't include the added width you need for those fragile NVIDIA connectors. So if you're trying to put a really big graphics card in here, you're either going to want to buy a custom 90-degree connector, or you might end up needing a smaller graphics card. Let's move on to the aesthetics of this case. As somebody who really enjoys that design of having two glass panels on your PC, much like you would see with the Lee & O11 Dynamic, I think this is a great looking case. Not only have they provided that two-panel aesthetic, they did it in such a way that this doesn't look like a complete ripoff of other things on the market. It's got this nice breathable mesh panel down here and a front cover panel down below. So rather than just having like a power supply shroud, this entire bottom area is actually separated from the main PC case. And with all those fans that you can mount in here, not only is the RGB gonna look incredible, you have absolutely no excuse if your components start overheating because the airflow in this case is so good. You can have 3 fans blowing directly into your GPU. You have the 2 intake fans on the side, and then you have exhaust on the back and on the top. So even during those prolonged gaming sessions, your components should stay nice and cool. Before we get into actually seeing how it is to build in this thing, there's one last piece. Phanteks, again, just like they've done with the XT Pro, utilized a combination of cardboard and this nice soft open cell foam in order to properly protect this case in shipping and ensure that you can ship this case multiple times without having to worry about your packing material breaking down. Really good job, especially on a case that only costs $90. Well, the last thing to do is to see how it is to build a PC in, and then I'll give you my final thoughts on this Phanteks XT View case. Well, we've officially completed the build in our new Phanteks XT Pro, so let's talk about our experience building in here. First, I really love the design that they put in here for adding the fans below the GPU. Rather than have extra pieces that have to pop out, they actually include bolts that you bolt through the fan to some threaded holes, so you don't have to disassemble anything. You just stick the fans on top and bolt right through them. Super easy, love it. In the process of painting it, we actually had to pull most of this case apart. It's super easy to pull apart and put right back together, so great design there as well. Next, working inside of it, just like we thought there would be, there's plenty of space in here to do everything. If you don't include bottom fans, you have a nice cutout here that you can run your GPU power cable through, and there is definitely tons of space for a big GPU. However, you might have to be a little bit careful because it does seem like the end of the GPU might run into this lower fan. You'll have to be careful of that if you're trying to put something like a 4080 Super in here. Moving on to the back side of the case, it's very similar to the Phanteks XT Pro. It's got some standard spots where you can put some cable ties or zip ties through it. However, this back area is super shallow, so if you have a lot of cables back here, you can really run out of space. That's one of the few complaints I have with this case, albeit at $90, it's really hard to complain about that. The other thing you'll notice, there's no grommets here for any of these pass-throughs, so when you're looking at it from the front side, sometimes you can see some of these cables through the back, so you either have to be a little extra vigilant about how you're routing your cables, or you're just gonna have to live with seeing some of the cables through from the front. I know I said that they do have some cable tie spaces. It would have been really nice if they had added a few more here, or maybe a couple more along the back here, so you can separate all your cables out a little bit and group them together better, and you can straighten out your CPU power cable and any other cable you're running in along the backside. But besides those couple of complaints, this is an incredible case, and it's totally worth the $90 I spent on it, and the customer thinks so too. And overall, I have to give this case about an 8.5 out of 10. It looks great, it works really well, it's a great price to performance. There's just a couple of little things that I think they could have improved in order to make it better, and it'll work with basically any PC you want to build in it with the exception of super high-end stuff. So there you have it, the Phanteks XT View. If you're still here and you haven't already yet, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more of our videos, putting out content all the time. So we'll see you on the next video.